Hello, rollers. Welcome back to another episode of Classin' Up the Joint. I am your host, Colin. I use they and he pronouns, and I am so excited to be joined by another fabulous guest. The thing that I may have not prepared you for, I usually let my guests introduce themselves. If you would like to do that, I can also take a crack at it since I'm totally springing that on you.
Sure. I am Sebastian Yūe. My pronouns are they, them. I am a game designer, writer, and editor, and I also work full-time at Hit Point Press. I'm very busy. I do a lot in the tabletop space, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I thank you for joining us. I am delighted, and honestly, I there was a temptation for a moment to just like go to your I'm going to call it resume and just start listing the many projects because you have been so prolific, I think, in the last 5-6 years plus in not only D&D based third-party content and independent content, but like a whole spectrum of games.
It's just under 5 years. I haven't actually been doing this for all that long, but it's been long enough to get a lot of experience. I've been very fortunate to work with a number of different people, on a number of different systems. So yeah,
absolutely. Do you have a favorite system? We're talking about several favorites, but like, is there a system that is the one you will go back to consistently?
Honestly, I really can't say that I have a favorite system because it really does depend on like what I'm trying to do, what I'm feeling, what kind of story I want to tell at that moment. And I can say that I like games that are like super hyper specific. Like, you know, tell me that I can do like, I don't know, like Honey Heist. You know, I'm a goddamn bear. I'm trying to do a heist. Like, great. You know, cool. I'm sold on that. Like, so I want a game that has a very clear premise and that hooks me. So like, you know, Apocalypse Keys. Like, I'm queer and I'm trying to hold back the apocalypse. And I'm also a monster. Like, you know, great, good shit. So it really depends on how I'm feeling, what I'm going to play. So I'm happy to play anything and everything. That's not really like an answer, but also like I'm constantly looking for new systems to try. And my favorite system is the one that I'm playing right now. So
I think that's a super fair answer because especially as someone with an experience across such a wide variety of them. And one of the things that I mean, I guess kind of jumping right into it, I feel like I have encountered, and I am guilty of this somewhat myself, a lot of people who start in D&D and or focus on D&D don't have other experience with other systems and don't necessarily want to or have a strong resistance to not only to trying it, but definitely to like, oh my God, I have to learn a whole new rule book. I don't know that I want to say, why do you think that is? I think that's not the question, but like what draws you to continually experience new systems?
Part of it is just because I'm curious and I'm interested in different game experiences. And another part of it is that like the more I play, the more exposure to different types of games, then the better I'm going to be at game design. And, you know, like I love D&D, I'm still playing it. And honestly, like even playing other systems makes me better at D&D, like as a player, as a GM, as a designer. And like I understand why people don't want to necessarily move off of it, and honestly, I think that's fine. But I do think that like you're missing out if you kind of flat out arbitrarily won't try a new thing. But also, I'm not going to fault people for not wanting to move off of D&D. It's what their friends know. It's very well supported, like by a lot of third parties. Like, you know, you can go on YouTube and there's like a million videos about here's how to be a good DM, here's how to run this, here's how to run that. Like, you know, it's easy. Like it's very well supported. Like there's a kind of learning ecosystem for D&D that just does not exist yet for other systems. And you know, I get it, like Wizards has the money, like D&D is where the money is, and like it's all kind of tied up into that. But also like just there's so much to experience in systems that are not D&D. And so if you're looking for things, and if you're ever kind of like bumping up against things and you have to like fight the system of D&D to tell the story that you want, then honestly it might be time to look elsewhere.
Absolutely. Sometimes I think about it like, you know, my background is in dance and performance. I think about it like the ballet of RPGs. It is foundational technique for a vast variety of other skill sets, essentially, and other styles. And I think D&D is sort of the entry to RPGs for a lot of people. Are there specific systems or specific games that you recommend for people that are like, well, I've done D&D. What's my next gateway into weirder or more niche or more indie RPGs? Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Okay.
Honestly, it depends on what you qualify as indie. And I don't want
Mm.
to come off like I'm shilling here, but actually, if you like D&D, you will probably like the Cosmere RPG that I've been working on. It
Uh-huh.
uses a D20 resolution system, but also there's a plot die, and so like they have like the designers of that game are very well versed in lots of different games, and
Hmm.
some of them have like backgrounds from being on other systems, and there's a plot die that's very inspired by like Genesis and kind of like Fantasy Flight games.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a mix, like they've taken like the best parts, I think, of the games that they have played, and they've made it in a way that's familiar to players of D&D. Like it is supposed to
Hmm.
appeal to D&D players, because
Yeah.
like the team thought really long and hard about like, how do we make this accessible and how do we make it our own
Right.
thing at the same time. So that might be a good place to start. There's enough familiarity that I think they like it wouldn't be too intimidating to learn. And like I've been able to play the game myself, and it's been really good. Like I love the plot die. I like how like combat runs. It's super
Hmm.
good. So and you
Yeah.
also don't need to know anything about Cosmere or Brandon Sanderson or anything like that to play it. So I think actually like I'm hoping that is
Yeah,
it's
sure.
it's one of the jobs that the game is supposed to do, and I mean I think it does a good job of it. So
Absolutely. I mean, I have poked around a little bit. I am very excited to hopefully gather some people and get either a home game or some other version of it started. Um, this made me think of something in, I guess, totally the opposite direction. Do you think what game do you think is the most unrelated to D&D that you have played? And I guess unrelated, either not necessarily in content, but like kind of in how the system works, number of dice, what they're used for, kind of thing. And that also, I feel like I'm kind of putting you on the spot there, but now I'm very interested as someone who has experienced all these other systems.
that's fair. Honestly, that's like completely opposite to D&D. I think that I mean, to an extent, my instinct was to say, well, like probably like a solo journaling game, but actually that's not so different,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're the kind of person that writes like a 50-page backstory for your character, then actually like that's probably quite
And takes
familiar to
notes about
you.
every
Yeah, and takes
session,
notes about
has
every
the whole
session and
campaign
does
story.
that,
Yeah,
and
totally.
kind of enjoys like thinking about like the story that you're going to tell, the story that you have.
Hmm.
So honestly, I'm not sure that like I'm also not necessarily sure that that's like a kind of like a helpful way to frame it necessarily.
Yeah,
Like I think I think it's interesting to consider, but like I don't think that I would be able to identify one that's like completely
sure.
opposite to D&D. Yeah.
It may have been kind of an unfair question, but it was occurring to me in that moment. And like, I guess where I was thinking a little bit is the difference between part of the difference in my head between things that are run by Powered by the Apocalypse, for example, and D&D is the number of dice goes from 7 to 1, and you're going to use that same die for everything. The pools of it are going to grow and shrink. And I guess even that there are pools versus, I guess you kind of get damage dice pools within D&D, but frequently there's not like a pool system. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know that it was an entirely fair question, but I
Yeah,
think,
that's fair.
yeah. Well, to continue with D&D for a moment before I want to ask you about some other things, let's cover these very, very extremely important, revealing questions. Sebastian, what is your favorite character class within D&D?
So I thought about this. I mean, I know that previous guests have picked more than one, so I'm going to
You
do the
can
same.
absolutely pick more than one, and I also I've been talking to a lot of people that are more familiar with third party and indie content, and if it is like outside of the core rule book, totally cool. I just might not know what it
Fair.
is and like want to know more
Fair.
about its
Well,
abilities.
yeah, honestly, Bard and Wizard. I love arcane casters, and like Bard was the first class that I ever played. I'm like, I know I'm like one of those incessant yapper people, and if I play a character that does that also, then I have an excuse to keep talking. And so honestly,
Sure.
I love bards. That I love being charisma based. I love like resolving situations by talking my way out of it. It's really fun. I
Yeah.
got super into bard, and like I wrote like parodies of pop songs and stuff to sing at the table. I cannot sing, by the way. It was horribly off key, but everyone found it really funny, and so I just kept doing it. So yeah, like I really like that there's that kind of like, it invites you to try that, and I don't think that everyone has to play a bard that way, but I kind of saw the character class and I was like, oh, actually I have the opportunity to do something really fun, and I think that my friends will be entertained by it. And so, yeah, honestly, bards, super fun to roleplay, honestly. And wizards, arcane casters, they have the best spell list in the entire game. Like, the amount of tactical bullshit that you can do with a wizard is quite frankly unfair. But I like to optimize, and I also like to create a very like complex, in-depth character, and so I like to do both of those, and so wizard really appeals to me for both of those reasons.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I agree. I think wizards are some of my favorites in the game. And one of the things I appreciate is that you can kind of come back to those classes again and again and again for characters, and not only by their subclass, but also by the spells you take, really craft completely different characters that do completely different things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, also because like the wizards have they're broken down by school of magic, and so if I want to like specialize and say like, oh, like my whole thing is enchanting or conjuring or whatever, then I can do that. And there's more than enough spells on that spell list to just do that if you really want to. So
yeah, absolutely. When you create characters, is there something that you start from? It's like, it sounded like both the mechanics appeal to you and a backstory and like really being able to tie to the campaign. But is there like the one place you kind of keep coming to as the opening move? Someone says, "I've got a game coming up, a campaign or a one shot, and I would love for you to play. We're playing D&D." Where do you start generating a character?
Honestly, I start with the character class, because that is going to have the biggest impact on how I'm actually going to be interacting with the game for the majority of the time. And like if it's D&D, it's a class. If it's powered by the apocalypse, it's a playbook, and etc. Right. But yeah, I always pick character class, and I think that the 2024 handbook did a really smart move, putting the classes at the top of the book instead of the races first. Yeah. So honestly, character class, like I want to see what abilities that I'm going to have in the game. I always look for what can I do with this game? Like that's the question that I ask.
Now, and I'm also in this moment just trying to remember if Bard and Wizard have both already been updated for the new rule set, because
they have. So every single class in sorry, not every single class. So like a handful of classes have been updated. I think each one has like 3 or 4 in the new rules.
Yeah. What are like I was saying right before we started, I feel like I've heard a lot of, oh, I'm not so stoked on it, but like, are there changes in the 2024 edition to Bards and Wizards that you are excited about?
Specifically to Bards and Wizards? Okay, honestly,
well, since we're mentioning them in this moment, I would say specifically to those two, but or generally.
Yeah, for sure. I think hang on, I actually do have I have the thingy open in D&D Beyond right now, so I just need to remind myself of it. Like, it's been out for like, a day or so. But I like, honestly, like, I would not be able to give you like an exhaustive list of like every single difference or whatever. But sorry, you might need to cut this bit out. Like,
we'll figure it out. I again, when I throw a random question and I'm like, oh, it might take us a moment to come up with the answer. And I as I've been following, I don't feel like Wizards got a huge
they didn't get a huge overhaul. Although one thing that I will say, I like that at level 5 they can do this thing called memorize spell. So whenever they finish a short rest, you can study your spell book and replace one of the level 1 and above wizard spells you have prepared with another one. So it gives it like a little bit more flexibility, because wizards are, recharge your resource on a long rest kind of situation. And because of the way that they prepare their spells, like you kind of have to guess what you're doing each day. And so like, if you get absolutely bodied in a fight and you're like, wait, I know there's more of these enemies around the corner, then you can take a short rest and fix that. So I like that they've added that flexibility to it.
Yeah, I agree. I was trying to just look at when the things Yeah, that happens much earlier, kind of in the level progression, rather than. I mean, it almost seems similar to signature spell in some ways, which is that. I mean, 20th level capstone, but yeah, yeah. Like I think previously, short rests were just about only useful for arcane recovery and gaining some amount of spell slots back.
It was hit dice you can do.
Uh, yes, and
Yeah.
I
Oh,
thought
because
arcane recovery
you
had
mean
still
arcane recovery
existed.
is in like because you read your book and you get half your spell slots. Yeah,
That sort of
yeah.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, but I couldn't quite remember. Yeah, yeah, make short rests more useful to everyone instead of just warlocks.
Yeah.
I'm like taking a look at bards as well, and I think oh, I love that counter charm is a reaction
I
and
like
not
that
a
that's a
full.
reaction too. No, it was good.
Hmm.
I hardly ever used it when I was playing in with 2014 rules. So yeah, counter charm as a reaction, very good. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That's neat. The words of creation is an interesting and better capstone. I'm gonna say it. I have complained a lot about how the 2014 rules, your level 20 ability as a bard is wow, you get one inspiration die back at the beginning of combat if you have zero. Um, I love that there's now, yeah, what is it? You regain expended uses of bardic inspiration until you have two. If you okay, and that is also, I think, 14, say 18th. But yeah, yeah, just gaining automatic power words at 20th level is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. It fits with the bard so much as well because it's like it's the power of words class essentially. So
Yeah, yeah. It's always such a fun thing to play with. I think how much your speech and the words you're using matter. I would say in any RPG and in any game, but especially as this kind of archetype in D&D. Amazing. Uh, Great. Well, continuing then to honing in a little bit more, your favorite subclass or subclasses.
Okay, so for Bard, it's College of Glamour, absolutely. Like, it's about words and it's also about, like, kind of beguiling, like, fey magic. And I love the flavor of College of Glamour. And also, like, I'm kind of obsessed with, like, the level 14 ability, which is literally just, like, I'm too hot to be attacked, make a wisdom save. Like, yeah. So,
That's pretty amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good. It's so good, and I'm glad that College of Glamour is now in the in the player's handbook instead of like it was originally from Xanathar's, which so
Uh-huh.
I'm happy to see it. I'm very happy to see it. Also, sorry,
Yeah.
it's a charisma saving throw. Sorry, yep. But yeah, and honestly,
That's
I like
yeah.
that it's a charisma saving throw. Like it's been a while since I actually played this class, but honestly, I do love it. And like
Yeah.
essentially, yeah, like you assume a magically majestic presence for a minute,
That
and so it's
is
like, yeah, I'm literally too hot to be attacked. So
yeah.
yeah, like
Unbreakable majesty. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
and it's I always I've not done like the nitty-gritty details of this, but I keep kind of generally gathering the senses of what saving throws are most common, and charismas are not very common, and a lot of stuff is not good at it. So
Yeah.
I think there's this interesting other thing of like I'm so hot you can't hit me, and also none of you are hot enough to overcome my hotness sort of
Exactly.
attitude.
Yeah, honestly, I love a charisma save, and like I like that it's uncommon. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, 100%. um yeah, and God, it's such a fun it's such a fun
so
class.
fun. Yeah, and and honestly, I like the enchantment aspect of it. I really do. I'm actually a huge fan of enchantment spells. If your table is into that, like, and everyone's agreed. Honestly, I love enchantment spells, and I like the consequences that you can get from
Yeah,
them. And I just it's so
yeah.
fun. And yeah, go ahead.
That's actually, to me, that's a very interesting tangent that I want to hunt down for a moment. Those spells are interesting to me because a lot of them, like hold person and hold monster, and these things are at the most blunt, consent removing, right? And then I have had in my own games like severe consequences when those are occasionally used on a party member, no matter how legit your reasons might seem at the time. Um, and so I think just to speak to what you're saying a moment about everyone at the table agreeing on those spells and how important that is, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But honestly, like I mean, I enjoy it because to an extent, it is like I mean, my bard can beguile you with fey magic, and so it actually, it actually makes perfect sense that I can just go up to this character and be like, actually, no, like I suggest that you acknowledge that I'm supposed to be here, and you can walk right in. Like there is an appeal to that. Like there is a very kind of creepy power that is about
Yeah.
that.
Well, and there's ways you can also use it to set up a really interesting foil, a really interesting foe for your party for in whatever context. If I think about David Tennant's character in Jessica Jones, that the Purple Man is like the classic Marvel villain who commands people to do things and they do them.
I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's very good.
Yeah, and just sort of how interesting a villain of that sort can be when that's the way they want to do things. I'm thinking of also things like I was just trying to make sure this was a thing. Yeah, dominate beast and dominate monster and dominate person are all in that same school. And if you have a big bad who's doing that level of magic and can essentially turn one of the party members into their spy, just like, I don't know. I find that very fun. and the importance of trying to make sure that you are going over that with your table rather than springing it on them in the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think honestly, another thing that I really liked about the College of Glamour is that at least in 2014, like there were like the class features went together so well. Because there's one where you can cast command and like if you've already charmed a creature, then it fails its save. But and then that goes so well with enthralling performance because if someone like watches you for a minute, then you can try to charm them, and then if you succeed, then and you're high enough level, then you can go right into Mantle of Majesty, and I think that's incredibly that's lovely design. It's so fun. I did it a lot when I played that class.
They're very fun. I had a great time once using enthralling performance, creating in my own horribly singing renditions of rap at that point. I think I redid a Snoop Dogg song as the introduction for our like first two adventures of our party, and enthralled an Annis hag that was trying to prevent us from getting to the Nine Hells, sort of thing. Yeah, so much fun. So looking at like a little I guess out a little bit. Sorry if you had I
was going to say like and I didn't address like what my favorite subclass was for wizard, and right now
please.
That is Chronology Magic. So that is from the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, Critical Role partnered content with Wizards of the Coast. It is so fun because honestly, I'm obsessed with like time magic, and like they've found a way to do it in and not have it be game breaking. So I mean, I respect that. Yeah. Well,
to me, the question, and when I've had people, I've tried to explain how that thing works. People are always like, "But you can. How do you not just become like oh God." Had pop culture reference, totally gone. But you can't rewind time constantly to correct your mistakes. You can't pull off a flashpoint situation. There's the momentary stasis aspect and some similar things that kind of remove someone temporarily from time, but you can't really reverse the entire flow.
Yeah, and I like that your control over it is still somewhat limited, at least until you get to level 14, because, if you have your chronal shift, you need to re-roll that. You need to re-roll and, you have to use the result of it. So even if it's worse than the first one,
Yeah. I big fan of how that works. And what is right. And the ability to your delayed spell ability, essentially the arcane abeyance, that you can just take a spell
that's where things get super broken. You can do some absolutely broken shit with that, and I'm a huge fan, actually.
Yeah. I look at delayed blast fireball a lot, and like this is I want this to be more useful than it is, and I think Arcane Abeyance was like, no, we're gonna make that exact idea extremely useful and potentially extremely deadly consequences.
Yeah, so my favorite thing that I've done with that is I've created a microwave situation because you can, like, if you cast Sickening Radiance and then cast Wall of Force over the top of it, you can do the dome, you can stick them in there. Sickening Radiance does radiant damage and gives you it gives you exhaustion if you keep failing it. That's a microwave, and the big bad inside cannot get out. Like you can just sit there for 6 rounds or whatever and do that.
I love it so much.
Yeah, like it's absolutely broken shit, and it's not very fun for anyone else at the table. And honestly, I've only done it once, and I told the DM, I was like, look, this is an absolutely broken thing that I want to do. Can you just let me do it once, and I promise I'll never do it again. Like that's also, that's fine. Like, so I mean, but also like I just think that the class is meant to do that kind of stuff. So because honestly, if you're clever with your usage of the Arcane Abeyance bead, then you can essentially have 2 concentration spells up at once, and that is a really fun combination.
Yeah. Well, I think way back somewhere last year when I was talking to someone, we were talking about it's the Bartlett's taxonomy of gamers. I don't know if this is like the breaker, the explorer, the socialist, and the completionist, something like that. And I do sometimes think there's like a little bit of breaker in everyone, and everyone's going for like, how far can I push the actual rules of this game, even if my DM is heavily into rules of cool, until they're finally like, okay, no, not that one.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say there's necessarily a bit of breaker in everybody, because like some people, I mean, some of my friends are really not interested in optimizing, they're not interested in doing this, that, and the other, and that's fine. But honestly, I definitely am. I like the most rewarding thing that I find about D&D is that it rewards system mastery. And so like it rewards you for being good at the game and for knowing what the options are and for thinking of creative ways to combine them. And I actually haven't been able to like replicate that in another game necessarily. So like that is why I like D&D. Like, like if someone was like, oh, why are you still playing D&D? I'd be like, well, because it does this actually. And so like that is a thing that I haven't been able to find elsewhere.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Specifically, I want to ask if you never found this similarly in Pathfinder. And I say that because I have very little exposure to Pathfinder, but it's kind of been explained to me as D&D for people who want a little more crunchy math and a little more crunchy customization of your character. And part of my assessment of that and my own just like poking around on Path Builder, trying to make some characters and playing one game, it does seem like the customization of your character there could reward the same sort of knowledge of the system.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a good point. Honestly, Pathfinder probably does.
Okay.
And like that lines up with everything that I've heard about it. I played Pathfinder First Edition. Like that was actually the first like RPG that I ever played. I was not very good at it. I didn't really understand what an RPG was. I didn't own the rule book. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I asked the DM and I was like, "Hey, what am I supposed to do?" Yeah, I was like, "Hey, what am I supposed to do?" And he was like, "I don't know. Well, like, do you want to hit things? Do you want to be good at spells?" And at that time, I didn't know what I liked. And I was like, "Well, can I do both?" And he was like, "You know what? Paladins can do both." And I was like, "Okay, great. I'll be a paladin." And then I figured that I was just like, wait, I need an oath and I need to be committed to it. And I was like, I actually don't know how to commit to this bit. Like I'm struggling with this. So, like honestly, I would love to play Pathfinder. Like, now that I have a bit more, like now that I know what an RPG is, then, I'd love to do that. And, makes sense that Pathfinder would do that. Like, yeah.
Totally. Well, that does lead me to another question that I was thinking about asking you. What do you think is, and if there is, a best way to try out a new game or a new system? Is it finding a community online, finding people in your home area so you can play in person, or I don't even know. Other things.
So for me, like this whole like tabletop situation, like I basically got started like at when the pandemic started, and so a lot of my experience has been like very online focused. And so I did join a streaming community called Utopia. It's for people of color, and so like they were doing regular streams, and so like I found like if you do a stream, it's a good way to play a game, because like everyone kind of has that like commitment, and everyone has that drive to play it, and like someone has committed to being the GM if there is one. And so honestly, I did a lot of streams, not necessarily because I like actual play, it's because I got to meet new people and play different games. So that was how I did that. If you can't meet people in your area or what have you, then honestly, like people on Start Playing games, like if you're willing to pay for like a one shot or something, like people like GMs on there do run games like how to learn how to play this game, learn how to play that game, and some of them will do like one shots or like a very short like contained thing that's like 2 or 3 sessions, and so like they'll take you through character creation, they'll take you through various things. So honestly, like I would recommend like paying someone if you can afford to do that, but if not, then like streams very good, meeting people like online also very good. So because
totally.
I mean, either that or like if you have an existing game group, then like kind of offering to run something that like you'd have to do that yourself. Like I understand that like in lots of cases, if you don't run the game, then the game doesn't happen, and so like that's not necessarily ideal if you want to be the player of a new system. But if you I found that like if you offer to run the game, then like people will agree to it. So
sometimes traps you into being forever GM, but it can be really worth it. And you're right. I motivating other people is harder if you are not coming to the table with I've got the thing and I will do it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the mid-roll. Friends, family, almost certainly, supporters all. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Classin' Up the Joint. I'm here to remind you of a couple changes we're making. Change number 1, the full episode goes out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you find your podcasts now. We're not cutting any more of it. You get the whole thing. But if you like what we do and you think you want to hear more of it, and if you have questions for our interview guests, if you support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/therollreport for as little as $1 a month, you can submit a list of questions to be asked by any of our interview guests on Classin' Up the Joint. They will answer them, and only our wonderful Patreon supporters will hear the answers to those questions. Coming up, we have a Classin' Up the Joint with Sebastian Yūe. Sebastian, among other things, again, editor of the Cosmere RPG, written the Field Guide to Floral Dragons, full-time employee, community manager for Hit Point Press, a really incredible and amazing game designer, writer, editor, GM, player, so many cool things. And Sebastian is working on so many amazing stuff. Amazing stuff? I know English, plurals. So submit your questions. Head on over to patreon.com/therollreport, join us for as little as $1 a month, and send me some more questions, because I got a couple good ones for Sebastian, but it's nothing compared to what all of you have, I'm sure. And if you want to know specific things about the Cosmere RPG, or Floral Dragons, or any one of the million other things Sebastian's working on for Hit Point Press and independently, support the show, send us a question, and you will hear the answer. We are also going to have several other really incredible guests coming back, and with those guests coming back, like Kitty Stryker, hopefully Patrick Prini and Emily Graymore from Unbalanced Encounters, and definitely the Slovenly Trolls, we're going to do some deep dives into the 2024 rules update. We're going to look back at some of our favorite classes that have been mentioned on the show before and see whether or not they got an upgrade, a downgrade, or somewhere in between. Stay tuned for those coming at you a little bit later this year. Lastly, a huge thank you to everyone who has listened to the show and supports us on Patreon, or doesn't support us on Patreon but just likes what you hear. Let us know. We love hearing from you, and we are so deeply grateful for your support and your listening and all of your friendships and more. Don't forget to follow us on social media at The Roll Report Cast on Instagram and TikTok. Back to the show. Speaking of, I don't know, other systems and the things you've done, you have worked on such a wide variety of both systems, individual games, supplements for games. Is there a project that is complete, that is existing, that you wish you got to talk about more?
Ooh, that's a good question. So you're looking for other systems, like
I don't know. I think it, and whatever, I guess I could rephrase it to the thing that you are most proud of that gets asked about the least.
honestly, I am very, very happy with the work that I did on the Apocalypse Keys stretch goals. I recently did get to talk about that though, so maybe I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so honestly, like, because, I was asked the same question and I was like, actually, no, I'm going to pick this one. Like, no one ever asked me about that.
Yeah.
So, like, now it's been asked once and I'm like, okay, I'm happy with it. But, I can talk about it again, but also, like, I've done a lot of stuff for my day job actually that that has been really fun to work on. Honestly, like Fool's Gold, it's like a fifth edition campaign setting based on like Dingo Doodles' YouTube videos. If you've ever seen those.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Yeah. What did you? Yeah. I guess I want to say it's a. I'm trying to take a really fast look. Full campaign setting.
Yes, it's a full campaign setting, and there's a campaign like that you can run, and there's also like it's a setting. There's like towns and NPCs, and like it's the Bellowing Wilds. It's Felix's jungle, like, and there's new classes too, like new spells. There's
Wow.
yeah, lots of roll tables for curses. So, like it's really really fun.
And
Yeah,
that
and so like, go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say I didn't actually like I wasn't familiar with the YouTube series before I started working on this, but then because like generally, I mean, I'm not really like I don't tend to watch a lot of like actual plays, and I don't tend to engage a lot with other people who are like broadcasting their games or whatever like that. I find it very difficult. But Dingo has this format, like she animates everything. She does all of the voices, and like the videos are like 20 minutes long or something. And so I started watching it, and I was like, actually, I've become really invested actually in this story that she's telling, and she tells it so well. Like, yeah. So I kind of became a fan of the series by working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was game design, writing, and that was kind of like an entirely you project. Yes.
No, like
or not.
No, I mean, like I fulfilled like a lot of different roles, but like it,
Sure.
it was very much a team effort. Like, yeah,
Okay.
I cannot do a 300-page book by myself. Absolutely not. Like,
well. Certainly not with that attitude.
Yeah. No, I just think that's unrealistic. It's not. It's actually very foolish to try that. Like, that is actually like, I see this a lot. So, like people will come up with like a really brilliant idea. They're really passionate about it. They love it so much. Haven't been able to do any work on it though, but they want their first thing to be like a big 300-page book. And I'm just like, I understand that you have this and you don't want to like give up on it, but also please literally finish anything before you try to do this. Like, it's very, very difficult. Like, I personally, with the experience that I've had, I would not try to do a 300-page book by myself. Like, yeah, I just wouldn't.
That's a whole lot of material to generate.
Yeah, it's a lot.
My apologies for misspeaking then. Yeah, but it's so cool. The illustration art style is very, I don't know. It's really neat. It's like a really interesting animation style, and I'm as I'm looking at just kind of some of the sample pages, the consistency and how much it all looks like the work of one artist and one world is really neat.
Yeah, honestly, the art direction is really good. There, like there are a number of different artists that contribute to different pieces with like different styles. But like, I think that the visual tone of each piece, like, and the color palette that they're using, like that comes across really well. And so like, I think that it's that really ties it together. I don't know too much about art in like technical terms, but like I get the feeling that that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my limited experience in kind of working in collaborative projects, like someone with the cohesive vision and ability to guide the art towards the more cohesive look in that way can go a long way, even if you have like 16 different artists working on a thing.
Yeah, and like that's
Yeah.
that's the job of the art director. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, is there a specific thing that draws you to the projects that you have done that you didn't originate? Like if someone comes up and says, "I have a pitch for a thing and I really want to work with you," is there something in that pitch that you're like, "Yeah, that would make me want to work with you."
Yeah, I mean, I like the opportunity to just like, honestly, I like to work on like short-term projects. So like something that isn't going to take years and years to develop. I like the opportunity to work on like indie stuff, like something that will be like, hey, like my game is a little bit weird. Do you want to do that? And I'm like, yeah, honestly, I'm a little bit weird. I want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
and like I can talk about a couple of the projects that I'm doing right
Yeah.
now. Like
Yes,
I
please. What
am
do we
a
got coming up?
contributor. Yeah, I'm a contributor to Cassie Mothwin's Echoes of Lost Electives, and so I worked on the house expansion. So I wrote some prompts for the House of Elements. So I did years 1 and 2, and so like that, it's a kind of spooky, like dark academia setting. Like I know you're familiar with it, and so I'm into spooky dark academia. Like I
Yeah.
did a master's degree. Like I'm haunted by that shit. Like so yeah, like
You and many
yeah, so
other
it was,
many other
yeah,
graduate
honestly,
level
it was,
students,
yeah,
I'm led
it
to
was a good
believe.
vibe. And so,
Yeah.
like, I really liked working on that because, that, like, it had a very clear, like, aesthetic, a very clear, like, direction, and, like the house kind of each house kind of comes with its own themes. And so I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm interested in this theme. Like, I'm interested in negligence and hunger and, like all of that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was really
Did you
fun.
get to choose which house you were going to write the prompts for?
Yes, I did.
Awesome.
So, what Cassie did was, she put out like a kind of survey and was like, okay, so rank your houses. I will like go through all of them and try to give people what they want. And so I think the elementals it was either my first or second. I actually don't remember
Sure.
what I put, but either way, like I had a really good time working on it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And to just briefly, since I don't know if everyone who will listen will be familiar, Tangled Blessings is a really amazing 1 or 2 player game, either solo journaling or kind of rivaling journaling, in which you and potentially this person play rivals at a magical academy. And I think one thing that really struck me about it also is the work that Cassie and I'm going to say Cassie as the lead had done to kind of talk about the shittier aspects of magical academy tropes and how to both avoid them and point people towards resources to avoiding them in their own games.
Yeah, I did appreciate that. A lot of that at the beginning there is a section that's like actually like dark academia has a lot of racist history, and I encourage you to read these. Like it showed that she cared about that stuff and that she'd done the reading, and like the articles that
Yeah.
were linked there were very good, and so I felt very comfortable to work with her on that project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess to ask that as a larger question, is that also something that is important to you? And by extension, do you think that is important to the industry as we keep generating new content and new games and new ideas?
Oh, like working with like a diverse team.
I think it's working with a diverse team and trying to acknowledge that the origins of some of our fantasy tropes and other tropes that we lean into to create these games have problematic origins, but how do we kind of move past them?
Yeah, I think that yeah, a lot of them are problematic. Actually like I think it would probably be fair to say that like actually I don't know anything that isn't necessarily problematic because like of how human history
Yeah.
has gone. But
Yeah.
also like I think that like trusting the communities that were most affected by these negative stereotypes, or by like the history of like colonization in role-playing games and that kind of thing. Like if those communities who want to tell those kinds of stories, then I would like to see them like given the funding and given the resources that they need to do that.
Sure.
And because I think that like there are a lot of problematic or otherwise like kind of dark or like difficult topics. And I think that there's a lot of value in making games that will explore them and actually like like actually face them, as opposed to trying to like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
want to, I'm going to work my way around this, or I'm going to try and pretend it doesn't exist. Like I'm a big fan of actually like acknowledging it and kind of coming at it head on, being like, no, yeah, I'm gonna dive right into this topic. And yeah, just but it's important to me
Yeah.
that like the people who are most affected by those various problems be the ones who are leading those kinds of
Yeah.
stories and those kinds of games.
Absolutely. Well, and I would add, I think one of the things that RPGs allow us to do is confront some of the legacies of colonization and racism and other things, other horrible aspects of human history in a hopefully safe container. I say hopefully because I can't make assumptions about the state of everyone's game everywhere, but hopefully we're doing this in a respectful and safe container for it.
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, I also don't think that games necessarily have to be like safe, in the sense that like I don't think that anyone's safety is necessarily guaranteed. It's just like people have to just be in agreement. And so like sometimes I like it when a game makes me
Sure.
a little bit uncomfortable, because like, if I feel challenged in some way, then I'm like, oh, I mean, I'm actually going to go away and think about this. Like, as
Yeah.
like, and I say uncomfortable as in like, something that is not necessarily harmful, but something that might just be like, ooh, like make you think a
Yeah.
bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of how I approach that.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that was what I mean by safe, that your table supports you in having feelings and being able to communicate about a response to them, and that you have checked in and hopefully had your session zero and some safety tools and gone over like everyone's lines and veils. With all of that understood, creating the container that people can sit in that discomfort and
Yeah.
and be exposed to things that will make them think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just comes
Yeah.
down to like what kind of play experience that you want. And kind of yeah, like another project that I'm doing is I'm
Yeah.
working on Loot for Spencer Campbell's Loot game. That's the game's name. So I got to design some enemies for that, because
Hmm.
he was like, honestly, I'm not too keen. I hate making enemy stat blocks. Like, can you do a collection of themed enemies? Like,
Yeah.
so I've been able to do that. I did some, like, it's set in like a kind of in a city where, and the premise is that like there was a Lich King, like that people kind of rose up and slayed him, and he left behind a ton of loot because like he was very wealthy and he had so much loot. And so now
Uh-huh.
like loot is just kind of like how the city's economy works. And so like you can get hired by different factions, and they'll like pay you in loot, and then your character kind of becomes defined by like the items that they're carrying. Yeah,
Wow.
and so honestly it's really fun. It's like a looter shooter kind of West Marches style,
Yeah.
like grid, very punchy
Yeah.
game. So I had a lot of fun doing that too. I like also to design for systems that are kind of ground up. I made this, like I like being a part of that. Like it's very
Yeah.
fun.
So loot is like is I've heard very little about it so far. I was trying to remember where I have heard about it, but that is a whole new system that you've gotten to be involved with.
Yeah, so I mean, they're like Spencer brought on a few like contributors in the same way that Cassie did, and so like those yeah, like to answer your original question, like those kinds of projects I really like
Yeah.
doing, like kind of indie creations with people who are just like kind of similar to me
Yeah.
in that respect, like
Yeah. There was something I was thinking about like about a short while back that I want to return to. You've worked in a large number of capacities as well. You've edited, finished content. You have designed. You have done proofreading. Is there a role that you enjoy most among the many that you have done in your time in the community?
honestly, I really like game design. Like that's gonna be my favorite thing like forever. I find mechanics a lot easier to think about, and then like sometimes like I'll get into a situation where I'm like, oh, I'm so excited about this ability, and then it comes to like writing the flavor text, and I'm like, wait, shit, how do I make this sound good and exciting? Like, how do I make the words go? Like, yeah. So, yeah, like a project that I just kind of turned in some work for. I was doing some subclasses revivified, which is like a group of people are doing a collaboration to convert the subclasses that wizards didn't include in the 2024 handbook. And so, I wrote 5 for Wizard, and so I looked at like what they already had, and I was like, wait, I need to learn how to I need to summarize this class in like that little italic kind of,
Uh-huh.
like that flavor text and make it sound good. And I struggled with that. Like, it felt kind of like writing a video game in the sense that like, you're supposed to say a lot using as few words as possible. And I was like, wait,
Right.
no, I have to make this sound fun. Like, it can't just be like, study this thing. Like, even though that's the Wizard's deal.
That
So,
is their
but
whole
honest, but like
deal.
no,
Yeah.
I did all of the mechanics for my classes, and then I came back to write that, and then I submitted my first draft, and then I was like, no, I'm going to rewrite this. I'm not happy with it, and I had to redo it.
Uh-huh.
Like it was, yeah. So honestly, game
Yeah.
design, like I really love that. Like
And
that's not to say that I don't enjoy the other things also, but like
sure.
if I had to pick one, game
Yeah, yeah,
design.
yeah. No, that yeah. And so game design being kind of like the deep dives into mechanically creating something new, both for existing systems and new systems that are maybe not out yet. It sounds like that is a wide variety, but into sort of like the math and the balance and the mechanics of how each of the systems would work.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like mathematics for me. Like actually balance, I'm
Mm,
like I love
sure.
having a developmental editor work with me on that because like I was doing that and I was like, wait, is
Totally.
this overpowered? Is this not as powerful as I think it is? Like
Yeah.
I actually do need a check for that. Like so balance is tricky, but like what I really like is kind of understanding like what the game is trying to accomplish and what this section of the
Hmm.
game is trying to accomplish, and like weaving in like the narrative and reflecting like kind of making the mechanics simulate the thing that you would be doing in the game. Like I mentioned that I liked the Chronology Wizard, and so like we
Yeah.
did a Chronomancer because we actually like we're polishing on the DM's Guild. We actually can't use Exandria content, so but I am allowed to do like my own version of the Time Wizard, and so like I kind of ignored the one that I love a lot, and I did a different thing with it. So
Cool.
like at level 14, I've given the wizard like the ability to like essentially create a time loop, and then you can just be like, oh, like,
Wow.
oh, like, sorry, I'm stuck in a time loop. I can't help but spam fireball. And like the idea is that you can keep casting this spell over and over again, but then when you can do that for 6 rounds, but once you're done, you have to you take a level of exhaustion for each level of the spell that you did. And
Wow.
so like that to me, I was like, honestly, I think this is
Yeah.
good because it soft caps it at level 5 if you don't want to die, but also if you want to kill your character doing that, you can. Like, so I thought that was really fun. Like, so that hopefully that's out
Yeah.
by the time this happens. But I was really excited about that, and because level 14, because you get because for the Wild Mount version, you get to influence a roll, and so you
It's
can decide whether whether it succeeds or fails, like by one or more. And then like when you each time you do that, you get exhaustion. But I was
right.
like, no, I would like the idea of a time wizard actually
I
creating a time loop, and
yeah.
I thought that was really
Yeah.
really fun. Yeah, so you could
Yeah,
just
I
spam
think
this
that's
spell, like, and
uh-huh.
it doesn't use spell slots. It's really powerful. But
And
you
well,
have to,
and you're
you have
gonna
to get
pay that
screwed by
price
it.
for it at
Yeah,
the
you
end of
will.
it, you know?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I really love doing that, and I really hope that someone actually plays this because it's a bit unhinged,
I
really. So
I can't wait.
yeah.
I've spent a good chunk of my own time mostly within core rule sets, and only in the last 6 8 months have I really been more aware of like just how much interesting other stuff exists. Um, and I know for me part of it is what is accessible on D&D Beyond because that kind of revolutionized character creation for me. I played when I was young with paper and pencil, and it's such a hassle. Like it's such a hassle. And then to now have everything at your fingertips and all the information there, they've sort of created an ecosystem that is difficult to get away from.
Yeah, like the digital support that D&D has is honestly incredible. I
Yeah.
honestly like my VGT of choice is Roll20. I really love Roll20. And actually like I just tested out their new 2024 character builder sheets. It looks really good. The user
Oh, I love
interface is
that.
so good. Like no, I'm really impressed by it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love hearing that. I know people have been really excited also about the Discord functionality that Roll20 has rolled
Yes,
out.
I've tried that too. I'm in a Curse of Strahd game. My DM is doing the jump gate beta. Like, we tried that. Honestly, it's really good. Like, it's really very good. I have had no problems with it so far. It's a seamless integration. It is just like you start the activity. It is just like playing on Roll20. Like, I see the same
Wow.
things. Yeah, definitely try it out if you can.
Yeah,
They did
no,
a great job with it.
we are not sponsored by Roll20.
Yeah.
I feel it behooves me to say
No. I mean,
that,
I just
but it
genuinely like
sounds really
Roll20. Like, I mean,
interesting.
Roll20. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, and again, Discord is something also in the last 3-4 years been like, wow, there are so many more interesting things this software can do when you want it to, and integrating with Roll20 like that, and being able to just have it at your fingertips without multiple browser windows and Discord open and whatever else you need, like that's
Yeah.
really, really cool.
And like that's actually really great for my table, because we
Mm-hmm.
found that actually like Roll20 had a really great like user interface, like it battle maps, combat,
Yeah.
like images, great. Video, voice and video, not so much. So like we would use Discord for audio and then like use Roll20 for camera and for actually playing. But
Yeah.
like them moving into Discord, like my guess is they probably found like a lot of people were doing that and were just like, wait, so like these people already have the infrastructure. Let's just, let's partner with them. I don't
Yeah.
actually know how it went, but like I feel like that was kind of hyper targeted to like groups like mine, who were doing that.
I honestly, I think it was a smart recognition that Discord is where a lot of people playing RPGs have migrated to and use as their thing. I used a free version of Slack until they kind of fucked everything up and said anything older than 90 days goes away on our free version, because now all of our threads of campaign notes have disappeared.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, I've only ever used Slack for like business and stuff. So
Yeah, and then it
Yeah.
stays forever.
yeah, but anyway, like the original point being that I don't remember what the original point was. I don't. Playtime wizards, everyone.
Playtime wizards, play interesting third party content. Something that also occurred to me then, I guess I want to ask kind of your experience with it, has been the development of Demiplane, and the fact that it has character builders for a wider variety of things, I think including
Cosmere.
yes,
Yes.
Cosmere, Daggerheart, a Pathfinder, Marvel
yeah.
Multiverse, Vampire
So-
Masquerades, Candela Obscura, so many things.
Yeah. So, despite the fact that I've worked on projects that have launched with Demiplane, I'm not actually very familiar with it at all. I don't know how to use that platform. I used a pre-generated character for when I did my own Stormlight RPG game, but like I don't know how to use it myself. But honestly, everything that I saw, like the character sheet, like the way it came out, it was really, really beautiful. It was really easy to navigate. Like I liked what I saw, and I am
Yeah.
very impressed with the amount of digital support that the Cosmere RPG was able to achieve, like on launching the Kickstarter. Like I actually have not seen anything like that. Like the team did an incredible job, and
Yeah.
I'm really glad that it came out as polished and as incredible as it did.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
and I know it's already gotten a ton of press and news. I think one of the things that to me really stood out as interesting, there's sort of an already existing fan base that may or may not be playing D&D and other RPGs, people that love Brandon Sanderson's work. And this I think tapped into this whole wellspring of people who are like, that world is so cool. There's a game set in it. Wow. Like, yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah, definitely. I think that like the team thought about a lot of the different kinds of people who would play it, and that there's like the RPG audience who are, who like to play games, who want to play new games, or maybe like the audience who wants to play D&D and have maybe like read a couple of Brandon Sanderson's books, and then there's the audience who is like, I am a hardcore like Brandon Sanderson fan. I don't really play RPGs, but I'm here for this, and so they like I do have friends who are like, I'm actually not necessarily interested in buying the adventure, but I want to buy the world guide because there's art and there's new lore in it, and so people who are fans of that universe, like there's something for them too. And I think that like there were some adjustments made to the different tiers that you can back at for Kickstarter, to be a bit more flexible about which books you could get, so people can kind of pick and choose like which universe they want, like because they're doing Mistborn as well. So
Right. Well, and if I am remembering, there's also this whole way that almost all of his books are tied together in time and I think physical space
Yeah, I
within
mean,
a
it's the
way.
Cosmere universe.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the, it's yeah. So like they all take place in that setting. Like so, and so
yeah.
we're like with the Cosmere RPG. It was a big. I mean, I don't want to say it's a big secret, but like because it was originally announced as the Stormlight RPG, but then
Hmm.
then there was a kind of surprise
Yeah.
as it's actually the Cosmere RPG. This is bigger
I
than just the Stormlight archive. So
Yeah. I love this idea of how many different things are in that universe to come. The
yeah, I mean the books
Mistborn
are
is kind
still
of its
being
own thing.
written, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
And and I mean now as I'm the White Sands comic books, I those I think are going to be very interesting ones as well. Um, Going real niche.
yeah.
It is to I think my last curiosity about the Cosmere game is if there's a piece of it that you are most excited about, either a piece that you worked on or something about the way the game works or the mechanics of it, that is like the thing that you're like, yes, that I love
So
that.
I edited the adventure, so the Stonewalker's
Hmm.
adventure, and I edited Bridge 9, which is the playtest
Hmm.
adventure that everyone has access to, the one that's free on Roll20, so like you can play that. But
Right.
but when I was playing the game, I loved how combat worked. They have a system of
Cool.
fast turns and slow turns, and so if you take a fast turn, you can go further in the initiative. You can go like higher up in the initiative order,
Right.
but you get one less action. And if you take a slow turn, you go later in the initiative, but you get three. So in
Uh-huh.
every round, you get to choose what kind of turn you take, and there are various different things that you take. There are various different actions that you can take. They're all on your character sheet, but I
Right.
found like that is so cool, and I
Yeah.
found myself being really tactical about it because you can talk to your teammates. You can be like, wait, so it takes me this many actions to set up this thing, and so like when you do that, then like you can pull off some
Yeah.
really great like team moves. And also there were times when I was like, wait, so I mean I'm also playing this game for the first time. I didn't work on the handbook, like I'm not necessarily familiar with all the mechanics myself, and so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take a slow turn. I'm going to see what the battlefield looks like by the time it's my
Hmm.
turn, and then I'll have
Yeah.
had time to think about it. So like even just for players like me who weren't necessarily super familiar with the system, in the sense that like I was not working on game design necessarily. I was working on the adventure. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Well, and I think one of the things that speaks to me is that in a standard D&D initiative, you can kind of check out in between your turns, and that might be a full like half hour of waiting for other
Yeah.
people to go and the
Yeah.
monsters.
But like this one really, it does encourage you to think like, what are you going to do on your next turn? Like, what
Yeah.
do you want to set up for yourself? Like, look at your character sheet. What can you do? And like sometimes I would find that actually like I can take a fast turn because you know what? I actually don't need to use all three of my actions. Like I can get this accomplished in two. Like we're good.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's a really really clever piece of design. And I like how in doing that they've managed to make combat feel very dynamic. Like I
Yeah.
feel like the situation has changed and we're not just necessarily like grinding down like someone's hit, like a monster's hit points or something. I feel like actually
Yeah.
like the circumstances are changing, the battlefield is changing, like the things that I can do, like that changes moment to moment. Like they did a really
Cool.
good job of that. So that's
Yeah.
probably my favorite mechanic.
Yeah, I love that. I have to drag my housemates into a playtest with me
Yeah, definitely do
sometime
that.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to, I guess, ask the questions that are, I guess I want to say career based. Like
Oh, go
you
ahead.
have done a lot in a very short period of time, and like we were saying, like I think living many people's perceived dream. Um, I'm gonna steal this from Ologies. What is your favorite thing about your current job, and what is I will get to what is the thing you like the least about all the things you got going. But favorite part about this life that you've gotten to create for yourself.
Honestly, my favorite part is that I actually never expected to get a job that I liked. Like, because like capitalism happens, you have to have a job, you have to
Yeah.
make money. I didn't necessarily think that would be like so. I mean, I guess I can like kind of walk it back and like talk a bit like how I kind of got here, because
Sure.
like I've had jobs that that played to my skill sets, and like because I went to university and I did my master's in journalism. I thought I was going to be a journalist. I did my like partly I did my master's because I didn't know what else to do with my life, and so I was like, if I delay this for 2 more years, then I can maybe think about it later. And it turns out, honestly,
Yeah.
that was not necessarily a great thing for me to do. But I still, I had like that academic experience, and journalism did teach me a lot of things, like like narratively, like I learned a lot. So but it also gave me like skills for marketing and PR. Like a lot of jobs you see
Yeah.
for marketing and communications, they want English, they want journalism, and so I had that. So I went into marketing and communications, and I was in an extremely like corporate environment, and I found it very difficult because like I thought a lot of their processes were very inefficient, and
Yeah.
like I couldn't relate to any of my coworkers. They were all like 45-year-olds with houses and pets, and like 2 cars, and I'm like I don't like inherently I
How
just
did
don't
they
have
get?
anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like inherently I don't actually like relate to you on a fundamental level, and like the way that we were communicating just wasn't working. And so I got laid off from that job around the start of the pandemic, and so I was like, well, I'm stuck with all this free time on my hands. I can, I'm gonna find some other contracts to pick up. So like I was doing like copywriting contracts, which at the same time as I started to do game design, and I wasn't necessarily looking to become a professional game designer. It just kind of like occurred because
Yeah.
I did it once. I had the idea to like do one adventure. Like I'll look at and I looked into it, and I figured out like I took a course with the Storytelling Collective. They have a Write Your First Adventure course, and so I was like, that is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to figure out how to publish this one thing. And then after that, I was like, well, now what do I do with my life? I can just keep doing it if I want. And so like my favorite thing is that I'm doing this thing that I really like. And so previously I was, writing is a skill that I have. And so
Yeah.
it was fine, but I actually enjoy it. Like I enjoy the things that I'm working on now. And like,
Yeah.
it's, like copywriting is difficult in the sense that like most of the time I find that I do not care about the product. Like I can write this, make it sound really
Sure.
good, like, whatever. But like, I ultimately do not care if this person like, buys it. Like I have
Yeah.
no emotional investment in the actual thing. Whereas this, I actually do have an emotional investment in, and it's nice because like I feel like I'm doing something that's genuinely like in line with what I want to do as what I want to be as a person, I guess. And I know that like not many people will get that opportunity. So like that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like when I say that like I didn't actually expect to have a job that I liked.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and I think it is difficult for many of us living in capitalism to have a job that we're really excited about and that we enjoy, and that supports
actually,
us.
Yeah, and so like
Yeah.
by the time this comes out, like I will like this will have happened. But I'm actually like my role actually at Hit Point Press has changed. I recently stepped into a new role, so I'm not doing their game. I'm not on their game design team anymore. I'm their publishing coordinator and their community manager, and so I'm actually
Congratulations.
like so I've moved departments and I'm doing something completely different now, and
Yeah.
I really like that actually because I like
Yeah.
working with people, and like the community is really fun. Like those are also skills that like I didn't necessarily like have before, and so it's something that I've been interested in developing.
Yeah.
And it also means that like I don't have to like do game design all day, then come home, do freelance, and then also do game design. Like I
And
found
do
it
more game
very
design.
exhausting, and so like I don't want to complain about it because like I'm living the dream,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
But that does kind of like go into like my like your other question being like, what's your least
Yeah.
favorite part of it?
I guess to pause for a moment,
Yeah.
I think also the question is kind of like it could be rephrased to what is something about this job and this life that you've created that people might not realize is really difficult. I don't know if that is maybe the same question phrased differently or like a very different one.
I think
but-
so. I mean, I didn't actually expect that I would get like tired from doing this, but like my brain is active like all day. Like I work 7.5 hours, then I'd be doing this thing, and I don't know, like I could be working my way through like stat blocks or whatever, and then like I'd get off work and be like, wait, so what am I doing for my other projects? I have to do more of this. Like I'm actually and so like I think that maybe there are some people who can do that, and I'm sure there are some people who can do that, but for me, I was like, I actually cannot be doing game design like 12 hours straight a day. Like I actually cannot do that like for like 5 days in a row. Like it's
12 hours of anything a day seems like a lot, really.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so like that was so like that was also like that's just I mean that's not a thing that's even like inherent to the job. It's just like the way that I've set up my life because I
Yeah.
could like stop freelancing, but I don't necessarily want to. Like I enjoy taking on different projects and I enjoy like working with different people, and I
Yeah.
do think that I develop like new skills each time I work on a different thing. But there's that, and there's also like the kind of time management aspect of it because you know like there's still a pandemic and I haven't really been able to like go out and do things and like I haven't really like I don't really do a lot of hobbies outside of this, so I
Yeah.
just do like I'm usually working and that's not necessarily the most healthy way to do it, but like I've struggled with being very COVID cautious and being like I'm feeling like I don't like there isn't really much to do,
Yeah.
so I'm like, well, I mean, I might as well work then, like, yeah.
And I, as hard as it is, I think it is lucky that work is for the most part something you enjoy, and I think that is a gift for everyone that has managed to achieve that in the last 4 years of like, oh God, we can't ever go out again or see anyone or do anything.
Yeah, so honestly, like, you know, generally, like I really love my job. Like, my day job is great.
Yeah.
Like, Hit Point Press is great to work with. Like, the people are really fantastic. And you know,
Yeah.
I love the freelance projects that I've been able to work on too. But like, I'm not really concerned about time management in the sense that like I like you know I can hit deadlines and stuff. It's just
Sure.
that I need to figure out like what I'm going to do with my life outside of this. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I want to ask you for like a last minute or two about kind of this new role and the community, the larger community in general. And one of the questions that I've been thinking about is how how your experience with this community has changed in the last 5 years as you've done more in it. And if sort of the community in general has changed for the better or the worse.
I I'm not sure that I can really like make a statement about like the entire community.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
not really sure like what that's about really, but like I guess from my perspective, like I mean I'm online a lot and like Twitter has certainly imploded ever since you know Elon
Hmm.
Musk bought it, and so like
Yep.
that was at the very start like that was kind of how I built an audience, and like I was able to talk to people on Twitter. Like I was you know I followed everybody who I was talking to from doing the you know Write Your First Adventure course, and like you know some of us have like you know some of us are still doing this and it's really nice.
Yeah.
But like communities change for like all kinds of reasons, and like I just think that like now like I used to kind of worry about like you know like having an opinion on like the latest kind of hot topic in RPGs, and I've just kind of and
Sure.
over the years I've just realized that like actually I don't need to, and of course I do have opinions, but I don't do I need to tweet about them? Like not really. Like and so honestly I that has been a very peaceful way to live life.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm not really interested in kind of cultivating an audience through like being known for having opinions on Twitter. And
Hmm.
some people do. Some people have great opinions and they have really good insights. But I just Twitter isn't like the medium for me to do that. I don't think. And yeah, like that's
Yeah.
something that I've kind of.
Yeah.
I guess like that's probably the broadest thing that I could say about like the community. It's more like tabletop space that is like in that area.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
so honestly, like I'm not really one to kind of feed the hot take machine, so to speak.
I apologize. Was not trying to yank a hot take out of you. That
Oh, okay.
genuinely out of
Yeah,
curiosity.
no, that's entirely fair.
Yeah. No, but I certainly will acknowledge. I feel like it was kind of phrased that way, and I do apologize for that. That was
No, that's
not
okay.
my intention.
Yeah, I'm yeah, no, I'm unbothered. Don't worry.
Yeah. Are so at I guess what does this new job? What are you most excited about with this new job and building more community around Hit Point Press and some of the projects that you've got going on there?
Yeah, so part of it was that like this was kind of stuff that I was doing already as part of
Hmm.
as part of my other role. Like I did like I was doing publishing stuff. Like I curated the Constellation RPG anthology, which is
Hmm.
it's like an anthology of 12 indie games, and so I got to like lead that, and I was like the you know I like that was my project. Like that actually was my project
Cool.
kind of start to finish, and I got to work with all these great people, and for some of them it was like the first time they got their game in print, which was really exciting.
Yeah.
So and like for the community piece, like it like I started by like I've kind of revamped the Discord, like, because Discord, I know we were talking earlier about like the kinds of tools that it has now, and so like
Yeah.
things like onboarding and like the safety setup and the ability to get people to like read the rules and agree to them before you join, like those are all like new, like relatively new features
Yeah.
since I've been using it. And so I was able to like set up some of that, and so I'm able to do like small things that are just kind of like little quality of life improvements, I guess.
Yeah.
So I've learned now how to do custom commands, and I can like schedule messages, which is really great. Like I can do that because Hit
Wow.
Point
Love
Press
it.
does streams, and so one of
Right.
the questions for the onboarding was, are you interested in Hit Point Press's streams? And so and then someone can click yes, and then it'll automatically like assign them like a stream watcher, and so then if I want to make a post about it, I can like set it to tag only those people, and then I'm not being obnoxious in the announcements channel, but
Yeah.
like people are still hearing about it. So I'll be like, stream
And
watcher,
set it to
like
remind them at the time
and set
the
it to
stream
remind
is
it like when we
happening.
go live. And so I'm like, so like it's an opt-in kind of thing, and that's
Yeah.
like that's really nice.
Yeah.
Like I'm like Hit Point Press is working on a number of exciting things, and we're talking about how to build up like kind of hype around those, and I'm sure you'll see later, but like for the time being, this is still like a relatively new position to me, so like I'm just kind
Yeah.
of going through cleaning up some stuff, and then I'll be able to implement like more big things.
Yeah.
So
One, I think one of the things I enjoy both within RPGs and outside is when you've got a clean slate to build a nice new system. You're like, well,
Right,
this
yeah.
sort of thing that was assembled somewhat haphazardly before, this ship of
Yeah.
Theseus that's been sailing around, like I can scrap it and rebuild something with intention.
Yeah, definitely. And so like, there was honestly like nothing wrong with like the way that the Discord was
Sure.
set up before. It was just like we hadn't been like there hadn't been like a dedicated I
Yeah.
guess like there hadn't been the chance to make use of the newer features that Discord had, and so I was really excited to like learn how to use those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
and
someone
I
has
did
to do the
mention that
job.
like Hit Point was doing live streams. Like I'm like sometimes I produce those. Like I've learned how to use OBS now, and so like
Wow.
part of the reason
Awesome.
why I'm actually like super excited to be doing this role is that actually like it's the chance to like learn skills that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
game design, I think like I am like the experience that I'm going to get from that is going to be from like continuing to just work on lots of different things. And
Right.
but this stuff, I don't think I could do community management or like producing or anything like just by myself. Or maybe I could, and it would be a lot harder. But I'm
Yeah.
grateful for this kind of environment to pick up new skills like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the chance to help shape the community in a way. Where am I going with this? I don't know. I had a thought and it like really totally escaped me. But
Yeah, that's okay.
it's such a cool but it's such a cool new thing to do. And I likewise I really appreciate when a job gives me the chance to expand skills into areas that I don't
Yeah.
already have them.
Yeah, definitely. And it is genuinely really nice to interact with people who, like a lot of people really love Humblewood, and like that's that's the most popular kind of channel that people talk in.
Yeah.
And it's really it genuinely, it's so nice to see people like talking about their campaigns and sharing about their characters. I mean, there's this one user in the Discord who like gives updates about their Heckner campaign every single time, and they're really detailed, and like I can see the kinds of things that they're doing at their table, and I'm like, honestly, I'm genuinely like interested in this. This is cool, and I like that you're sharing this with us. So
Yeah.
there's also like the people aspect, and it's nice. It's just nice to meet people. So
I mean, could not agree more. It's definitely one of the most fun things for me about getting to talk to people like yourself. And I think on that note, thank you so much. I am so
Yeah.
grateful to get a chance to spend an hour talking about all the things with you. This has been such a joy.
yeah, thank you so much. This has
Yeah.
been great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at this point, I'm also going to say, if you are following us on Patreon, you will get a special Q&A with Sebastian. If you support us at any level on Patreon, submit a question, and we're going to be back with a little extra Q&A a little bit later this year. So yeah, check out The Roll Report's Patreon, patreon.com/The Roll Report. Roll with 2 L's. Sebastian, where can people find you and the things that you do online?
Yeah, so I'm Sebastian Yūe everywhere, so that's Sebastianyue. So like on Twitter mainly, and my website is sebastianyue.ca because I'm based in Canada. But yeah, like those are the best places to find me, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, someday I'll think of the best way to actually sign this off, but I will just thank you again. What a pleasure to get to spend this time with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great. This is such a good conversation.